Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Media Boat Podcast, your source for news and reviews for all the hottest new music, television, movies, and video games, not necessarily in that order. My name is Matt. It's just me this week. Mike is on assignment. Probably a quick one today, though I do have some video game thoughts that I'm sure some of you sickos like me have been waiting for. I'll get to that in a little bit. But first, of course, we always start with music. Oh, sorry, I should say the date and the episode number. Today is November the 25th, 2025. We are mere days away from Thanksgiving here in the U.S. And it is episode 514. But yes, as I was about to say, we always start with the music. So let's get to the music section first. And we always start the music section with the Billboard Hot 100. We started the Hot 100 this week with, of course, your number one song still being The Fate of Ophelia by Taylor Swift. Spoiler alert, nothing changed. Number 2 is still Golden from Huntrix. Number 3 is still Ordinary by Alex Warren. Number 4 is Man I Need by Olivia Dean. And number 5 is still Opalite by Taylor Swift. No movement from last week. We did, however, see some movement in the Billboard 200. Number 1, The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift stays in its spot. But number 2, Finally Over It by Summer Walker. Number 3, I'm the Problem by Morgan Wallen. Number 4, Fear by NF. Number 5, K-Pop Demon Hunters, the soundtrack by various artists. So yeah, you have Summer Walker and NF's records creeping into the top 5 this week on the Billboard 200. As for your new releases, just one this week. This is the start of the slower release season, so don't get too excited about this section going forward for the next few weeks. It's just Jessie J with an album called Don't Tease Me with a Good Time. I won't, Jessie J. Trust me, I won't. All right, let's move on to music news, and we do have a little bit of a bummer story this week, but it seems to have worked out, at least he seems okay. Donald Glover. No, I'm not going to call him what Mike calls him on this podcast. Donald Glover, as we learned earlier last year, I believe, is retiring the Childish Gambino name with one final tour, which is kind of a recovery tour, you might remember. In 2024, he canceled that New World Tour due to some health issues. Well, this year, during a performance at Tyler, the Creator's Camp Flog Gnaw, he explained that he had a stroke, and that's what forced him to end his globe-spanning tour after just 18 shows. He said, quote, "I had a really bad pain in my head in Louisiana, and I did the show anyway. I couldn't see really well, so when we went to Houston, I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, 'You had a stroke.' And the first thing I thought was like, oh, here I am still copying Jamie Foxx. Still got the jokes, I guess. The second thing that was his second thing he said. Really, the first thing was he felt like he was letting everyone down. Yeah, I mean, this sucks, especially considering that this was supposed to be his big last bang last year, and he was unable to fulfill all the shows that he signed up for. It's got to be disappointing if you're Donald Glover, but I'm glad that he got checked out. I'm glad he's working on it. I'm glad he's recovered from the stroke. I mean, strokes can be incredibly debilitating. Like, just ask anybody who's had one. It's real rough. They can lead to all sorts of complications. I'm glad that he caught it. I'm glad that he was able to work through it. And I'm glad that he's performing again. Good for Donald Glover. All right. No thoughts this week? Not really. Still working out top 10s and organizing music and all that fun stuff. So no reviews this week for music, but that's okay because that means we get to move on to the section I'm really excited for this week, which is video games. Of course, don't get excited about new releases. Just like music, it's going to be a trickle for a little bit. The only release we have that's worth noting, I should say, is Marvel Cosmic Invasion. That's on everything. PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Nintendo Switches. And that is your brawler. That is your Marvel Brawler game that was shown off, I believe, a little bit earlier in the year. So, something to look forward to as a fly just flies by my camera screen. Anyway, so that's out this week. Not out this week, but on people's radars is something we talked about last week, Valve's Steam Machine. Well, at the time when we were talking about the Steam Machine last week, we didn't really know how the pricing was going to work out. I warned Mike that it might be more expensive than a console, and turns out that looks like that's going to be likely. Valve's newly announced Steam Machine will be, quote, priced like a PC rather than a console. This is according to a Valve spokesperson who spoke to Linus Tech Tips, YouTube tech show, during a reveal event. According to Linus Sebastian, this likely means that the Steam firm won't take a hit on production costs in order to reduce consumer prices, like companies like PlayStation and Xbox have done in the past. In the past is crucial there. They're not doing it this year, let me tell you. Currently, the PS5 retails for $500 to $550, with PS5 Pro retailing for $750. Meanwhile, the Xbox Series X starts from $600. Both platform holders have raised prices this year. Quote, Valve wasn't able to give any specific numbers due to the rapidly evolving market conditions, but they will obviously have it nailed down when the Steam Machine launches in Q1 of 2026, alongside the new Steam controller. So yeah, like I said, it's going to be a PC. It's going to be priced like a PC. Now, what does that mean? Well, they later kind of clarified that means like the cost of the components to build like an average PC. So my guess is that ballparks it somewhere around the 1,000 range, from 1,000 to 1,200 range. You're not going to talk about $3,000. It's not going to be that expensive, like, you know, the equivalent of a high-end PC. This thing's not going to be like the equivalent of a GTX 4090 in that thing, even a 5080. Like, you're going to get something a little less. I mean, we do know that it's going to be more powerful than the Steam Deck, but just how much high that ceiling is will determine what the pricing looks like. So just wait until you commit to one of those things to see how much that costs. All right, that's it for video game news. We do have thought this week. I am so happy to tell you about Kirby Air Riders. I've been playing this pretty much nonstop since it came out, and it is just a joy. It is a wonder to behold. It is a game that's kind of a miracle that it even exists. I am a big fan of the 2003 Kirby Air Ride for the GameCube. I was obsessed with it at the time. I thought it was the most fun, chaotic, wonderful multiplayer experience, especially City Trial mode, which I'll get into in a second. And I love Kirby. It started my love of Kirby in a lot of ways. I kind of didn't really get into Kirby until like Kirby 64 and then Air Rider. It's just one of my favorite games from the GameCube era. I just played it to death. But I was kind of shocked when they said that there was a new Kirby Air Ride game coming to the Switch when they announced it. It has now become a Switch 2 game, and oh boy, has it delivered on almost everything that I wanted a sequel 20 years in the making of Kirby Air Ride to have. Air Riders just as Kirby Air Ride plus a lot more. I saw somebody on Blue Sky liken it to if Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was the sequel to Super Smash Bros. Like for the N64. That is how much of a big leap that this is above its prequel. It has everything that you'd want in a Kirby Air Ride sequel, including all the modes that were in the original. Reappear here. The regular air ride race mode, the top-down top ride mode, the city trial mode that I mentioned before, and a brand new mode exclusive to the sequel called Road Trip. That is really cool and combines elements of all the other modes and wraps them up into a single-player kind of adventure mode. I mean, this is Sakurai as best. I mean, the games this guy makes are chock full of things, and this game is no different. Just like the original, there are checklists where just playing the game will unlock things, like new riders, new machines, new race tracks, etc. It just keeps popping like achievement style like bursts of joy at the end of every round of the game. It's just fantastic. And there's customized there's customizing features now where you can customize and like put decals and paint on your machines. There's any rider can be paired with any machine this time, as opposed to being like exclusive to a certain kind of machine. God, I'm sorry. I'm like stumbling over myself because there's just so much to talk about with this. I should probably back up. So if you've never played Kirby Air Ride, what is Kirby Air Ride? You're probably asking. It is a racing game, but it's a single button, as it was originally designed, racing game. You're automatically accelerating, so it's not like Mario Kart where you get the Mario Kart thumb by holding down button the whole time. But the single button is the brake. But the brake, of course, and like in most racing games, is also your slide mechanic. So you're holding that down while you're going around corners. But you're also doing that to interact with the map around you. For example, if you're near an enemy, pressing the button will inhale the enemy, because Kirby, and get its copy ability. How to use the copy ability? You guessed it, press that same button. The button is context sensitive, and so depending on what the context of your situation, the button will do different things. Also of note is that there's a new button this time, a special button. There's a special meter that is charging as you do things in the race. And once it's full, you can execute a special move that really does damage to opponents and enemies. This will come in handy because you need it. The game is faster this time. The actual racing speed is up from the GameCube days. And so it's a little bit more chaotic, and it feels a little bit more flying by the seat of your pants in races than it did in the past. So your Air Ride mode is your traditional race mode. The top ride, as I mentioned, is kind of a top-down version. That's kind of like RC Pro-Am, to reference an old NES game. And then City Trial is where the meat is. City Trial is an open-world mode where you and whoever you're against are tossed on a map. There are power-ups to pick up. Those power-ups can up your stats of your machine. This could be your top speed, your ability to charge faster, your durability, your offense when you're attacking, to the strength of your gliding ability when you go off of a ramp. And you're basically just spending a handful of minutes just gathering as many of these power-ups as possible, while, of course, surviving against your enemies, engaging in different special events, like little mini-games that take place on the city map. And then once the timer goes off, you have to go into a proper mini-game that's like a challenge based on what the stats that you increase. And this could be anything. This could be something that challenges you in a race. This could be something that challenges you by flying, for example, flying into certain targets and trying to get the top score. It could be falling into targets. It could be a battle arena where you're battling each other. It could be a gourmet race where you're trying to eat as much food pictures as you can. There's a variety of different kinds of mini games, and you may get to vote at the end or maybe not. Like, the game's a little unpredictable like that. It's absolute chaos if you're not used to it. I've seen people who are new to City Trial around this writer's release getting very overwhelmed by everything that can happen. I mean, I have an advantage being familiar with the original, but like I said, that speed increase has made things more chaotic, and that definitely does mean that City Trial is affected too. There's a lot happening, and if you're somebody who is very easily overwhelmed, City Trial, yeah, it might be a sensory overload for you. But it's just as fun as it was, and I am just so happy that I live in a timeline where I can play City Trial, Kirby Air Ride City Trial, anytime I want on the internet, and automatically have people paired up with me. I don't have to beg friends to play City Trial with me for the umpteenth time, like I did when I was 13. But then there's road trip mode. I want to talk about road trip mode because it is surprisingly deep. So yeah, like I said, it is kind of a combination of all modes, but it's couched in an adventure mode style story mode kind of thing. There is a story with completely animated cutscenes that are really impressive, that is told during the course of these games. It kind of acts as like, I'm struggling to how to explain the mode. Just like City Trial, you are also outfitting your machine and trying to up its stats. But instead of collecting them You are on this kind of like endless road that has instances set up for you. And once you reach the instance, you then do a mini game. And this could be a race. It could be one of the mini games from City Trial or something else. And it could even be a store where you can buy power-ups instead of having to earn them. Or a boss level where you have to beat a boss at either a race or like a battle or something like that. And you keep going down these while you like upgrade like your machine to get better and better. And it takes about like 2 hours and change to finish. It's pretty meaty for this kind of thing. You can save in the middle of it though, so you don't have to do it all in one sitting, which is nice. I ended up finishing it. I didn't get the true ending, but man, it was a really fun time. And because of the variety of different pathways you can go down, it's very replayable. And I do find myself wanting to try it again to go down pathways I didn't go down before. There are some decisions you have to make by which like items you're picking up along the road. It's a really interesting mode that does offer a little bit more depth to the experience and a little bit more single player experience to it, because without that, you are looking at roughly the same package as the original, which is very multiplayer based. So yeah, if that's not your bag, Road Trip's totally a solution, and it really is cool. And the story is, as you would imagine, total Kirby bullshit. And if you don't know what that means, well, the Kirby games have a weird habit of cataclysmic, demonic horrors as their final bosses. And this is no different. In fact, it's a familiar face if you've played Kirby Superstar. I'll stop the spoilers there, but it kind of isn't a spoiler because it was in the trailer and in the directs. So if you know, you know. But for those who don't, it's a fun thing to discover as you finish up, as you get further, I should say, in the road trip mode. Yeah, so it's basically the bottom line is hey, Kirby Air Ride is back, and if you have nostalgia at all for the original one, this is a must-have. It is absolutely everything you loved about the first one, but cranked up to 11. If you're new, however, like I said, be prepared to get into a very weird game, because it is not your average kart racer. It is very different. It is doing a lot of very specific things. It is a unique animal when it comes to racing games, and it is like nothing you played. But I do recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun, even when things do get really chaotic. So that's Kirby Air Riders. I'll report back the more I play it, but pretty great so far. All right, that will do it for the video game section, so we'll safely move on to television, and we always start television with the Sports Corner. Mike's not here, as usual. If I botch some things, I'm sorry, but I will do my best. We start our sports section with the NFL, and the New England Patriots seem to be back in business, as they are the first team in the NFL to 10 wins for the season. Congratulations, Patriots. You also have, unfortunately, the opposite of that happening to the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants, who with a 2-10 record are officially eliminated already from playoff contention. Sorry, Giants fans. So we move on next to the Major League Baseball, but of course, it's kind of the doldrums for baseball. All that's really happening in the background are some trade deals. We haven't had any super blockbusters yet. We will, of course, let you know when big trades happening. We're still waiting on a lot of those free agents to figure out what they're going to do next. But in the meantime, women's baseball is just around the corner. The draft for the inaugural season of the Women's Professional Baseball League did happen over the last week. Some major known names were involved, especially if you're only have a cursory knowledge of women's baseball and like how it's been coming up over the last few years. You might not know many of the names, but there's a few that you might recognize. Number one, of course, being Mo'ne Davis, who is famous mostly for her Little League World Series performance in 2014, throwing a no-hitter, the first time that's ever been done by a woman in the Little League Series, or I guess at the time, a girl. Well, now she is here for the pro game, and she got drafted by the Los Angeles team that has yet to be named. Meanwhile, I'm pulling up the rest of the draft here. Let's just pull up round 1 here, because that's probably the biggest names you're going to hear. The first round, first pick in the first round was Kelsey Whitmore from San Diego, California. And notable for having a little stint with the Savannah Bananas, one of the few women on the Bananas teams. So yeah, between those and a lot more, a lot of familiar names if you're in that kind of zone in sports, and a lot of excitement brewing around that new league. I'm very excited to see these women play and to have baseball like even the field in the world of baseball, which is very exciting. Meanwhile, the AUSL draft, the Athletes Unlimited Softball League draft, is December 1st. So I'll be able to talk about that next week. So look forward to that too. That's the expansion draft that adds the new teams, the Cascade and the Oklahoma City Spark. So exciting things could happen. A little shakeup going on in those teams. All right, moving on to the NBA. Here's your update for the currently running NBA Cup. The Toronto Raptors clinched their division and will now move out of the group stages. Congratulations to the Raptors. The Indiana Pacers, the Utah Jazz, and the New Orleans Pelicans, meanwhile, have been eliminated from playoff contention. Next up is the NHL. 1/4 of the season has been played, and the Colorado Avalanche are dominating with the most points, 37, the highest goal differential, 38, only 1 regulation loss, 5 overtime losses, and currently are on a 9-game win streak. Can anyone catch up to the Avalanche? Well, I hear bad things happen when you try to catch up to an Avalanche. You get buried. I'm sorry. I know nothing else about hockey. I can't really, and all I got are the jokes, folks. That's all I got. Anyways, let's move on to college football. Rivalry week is this weekend and the final week of the regular season. Both of those things are true. The Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M remain undefeated. However, the Ohio State and Indiana are in the Big Ten and could meet in the championship game. So we'll likely not have one of those teams will not have a completely undefeated season. That's it for sports. So that means, of course, we can move on to the television news. And of course, the television news is an update on the ongoing bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount, Comcast, and Netflix have all submitted bids to acquire all or part of Warner Brothers Discovery as the November 20th deadline arrived for initial offers. There will be another round after the particulars are hashed out, when bidders will be asked if they want to submit final bidding offers. Warner Brothers Discovery has indicated that they believe the sale process can be concluded by late December, though the transaction would then require at least a year to be cleared by regulators. Paramount has been in pole position in the race, in part because its bid is for the entire company, including its portfolio of struggling cable networks. Netflix and Comcast are the studios and streaming part of the media giant. They're after the studios and streaming part of the media giant, as neither of them have any real desire for any or more cable channels, respectively. David Zaslav, of course, longtime former CEO of Discovery and ex-NBC exec, engineered the $43 billion deal to combine Discovery with Warner Media in a transaction with AT&T back in 2022. But the company's stock has since sunk, and the price remained depressed during 3 years of cutbacks, write-offs, rebrands, and redos. Paramount's highest bid has been north of $60 billion. Will the other two companies bid higher than that? We will have to wait, but I have a feeling that if they're going to sell, they want to sell all of it, which is bad news. We all lose if Paramount gets this. I mean, we lose no matter who gets it because consolidation sucks, but as I've talked about in the last few weeks, it's like the worst timeline, the worst possible way this could go is that Paramount buys the whole enchilada because we know who runs Paramount. All right, let's move on. I'm going to pass the buck on the thoughts for A Man on the Inside. I have also been watching it. I've watched the first 3 episodes, but when Mike is back next week, we will talk about that together. All right, with that, then let's move on to cancellations and renewals. First up, Line of Duty on BBC has been renewed for a 7th season. Twisted Metal on Peacock has gotten a 3rd season. Wild Cards on the CW will get a third season. All Creatures Great and Small on PBS will get a not just one more, but 2 more seasons, bringing it to a total of 8 seasons. Friend of the show, Christy, is very excited about that. I Love LA, the Rachel Sennett show I did not care for, is getting a 2nd season on HBO. The Chair Company, the other HBO debut from the last month, will also get a 2nd season. Task will get a 2nd season on HBO as well. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms will get a 2nd season on HBO too. House of the Dragon will get a 4th season on HBO, and All's Fair will get a 2nd season on Hulu. I believe some of these are repeats, but hey, news for you about cancellations and renewals, no matter when you tune in. That's the media boat difference. All right, let's move on to the last section of the show, which is movies. Let's talk about the box office to start off, and guess who was right? It was me again. We had the number about at $110 million for whether Wicked for Good would outdo that number, and it did it with flying colors to the tune of $150 million in its opening weekend. So I was right. I get another point, and Mike gets another loss. Number 2, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, made another $9.1 million. That's at 36 domestic. Predator Badlands, still here, $6.2 million. That's at 76. Number 4, The Running Man, with 5.8 this week. That's at 27. And rounding out your top 5, Rental Family, with $3.3 million in its first week. You also had way down number 6, Sisu Road to Revenge, with a debut of $26 million. So Mike has a bet here. He has it for Zootopia 2, which is next week. Well, since he's not here, I hesitate to bet on it. But I will say, I think it will do well. I think people did like the original Zootopia a lot. I do think a lot of people will be seeing movies during the Thanksgiving weekend. But I do wonder how much is going to be split between Wicked and Zootopia, because Wicked is still going to be strong in its second week. There's going to be a lot of people who didn't see it already. So I don't know. I don't know if you get up to the stratosphere 100 this time. Maybe 60, 70 is where my gut lies with Zootopia. But again, Mike's not here, so I can't make an official bet, but that's kind of where I'm feeling. So we'll see how it shapes up next week. Wow, that dog down there is very excited about Zootopia 2. All right, let's move on to new releases. Speaking of Zootopia 2, it's also, it's met with 2 other new releases this week, which are Eternity and Hamnet. I don't know what Eternity is, but Hamnet is the new Chloe Zhao directed film about William Shakespeare's marriage and son. Hamnet is the name of his son, and the aftermath of his son's death, which leads to Hamlet, the Shakespeare play. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know it has a lot of awards buzz. So this is definitely one of those to keep an eye on as we get into award season. So yeah, something to wait for there. All right, that's it for new releases, but we're going to talk about another new release this week that's not on our list because it is extremely limited. That's because, of course, it's coming to Netflix, because I'm talking about Wake Up Dead Man, Rian Johnson's new 3rd movie in the Knives Out franchise. Rian Johnson has, however, expressed frustration at this limited theatrical release. Netflix will release the film in theaters on November 26th in time for the Thanksgiving holiday, before releasing it on Netflix on December 12th. But it will only release in select theaters as opposed to nationwide. Johnson replied to one fan who expressed concern after failing to find a local screening, quote, "I'm just as frustrated as you that it's not everywhere, but new theaters will be added, so keep checking." Also, if you're inclined, it wouldn't hurt to contact the manager of your local theater and politely ask them if it's coming. He added, "For those asking, sadly, AMC would not play the movie, so it's going to be Landmark, Alamo, and other chains, and it can absolutely stay in theaters after the 12/12 Netflix drop if there's demand. It's up to the theaters to decide." CEO Ted Sarandos explained the company's policy on theatrical distribution during a recent earnings conference, saying, "Our strategy is to give our members exclusive first-run movies on Netflix," asserting that the success of K-pop Demon Hunters was only because it was released on Netflix first. I don't know if I'm 100% in agreement there to Mr. Sarandos' statement. But what I will say is, yes, this is not super surprising considering it is a Netflix film first. That being said, I'm one of those lucky people who have a theater nearby that is playing this. So yes, I have tickets, and I will be seeing Wake Up Dead Band before next week, so I will be able to talk about it. I let Mike know that this was the location here that was playing it, so he might also try to get a screening here too. We will see. But in the meantime, wait for next week for our impressions of Wake Up Dead Band. All right, let's move on then. In fact, actually, there's nothing to move on to because that's it. That's toast, folks. The show is done. That's it for movie news, and that's it for the Media Boat podcast this week. Like I said, we'll be back with a proper full episode with Mike back in the seat next week. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us. If you want to find the video version of these podcasts, go to our YouTube channel, search Media Boat Podcast to find it. Like, subscribe, comment, leave a nice comment for us. I don't know, leave a review if you want. I don't know, whatever you do on YouTube, do it for us. We appreciate it. If you'd rather hear us in audio form, that's available too on podcast services of your choice. You can also find us elsewhere on the internet on social media platform Blue Sky by searching Media Boat Podcast there. You can find us, Mike specifically, streaming the occasional video game on twitch.tv/MediaBoat. And lastly, if you want to email us about questions, concerns, comments, feedback about the show, you can do so at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. We will read those emails here on the air. So send us an email anytime. All right, that'll do it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Have a good weekend and have a great Thanksgiving if you're here in the U.S. All right, folks. Thanks. Bye.